The rain had not stopped for 3 days. It fell in heavy sheets across the Korean demilitarized zone, turning the ground into thick mud that sucked at boots and slowed everything down. Lieutenant Park Do-hyun wiped the water from his face and looked at the massive shape half buried in the earth ahead of them. The alien ship had crashed 2 weeks ago. It had torn through the clouds like a falling star, trailing fire and smoke, before slamming into the empty land between North and South. Both nations had agreed to let the Earth Reclamation Corps handle it. Neither wanted to start a war over alien garbage. Do-hyun was not a soldier. He was a salvage officer. His job was simple. Go in, collect samples, document everything, and get out. He had done this work for 6 years, ever since humanity made first contact with the galactic community. Back then, everyone thought aliens would change everything. They were wrong. The aliens looked at Earth, saw a small planet with primitive technology, and moved on. Humanity was not interesting to them. They were like children trying to join a conversation between adults. "Lieutenant, the entrance is clear," said Cho Eun-ji through the radio. She was the combat engineer, responsible for cutting through alien metal and making paths. "But I don't like the look of it. The structure is unstable." Do-hyun nodded even though she could not see him. "Understood. We go in fast, grab what we can, and leave. No heroes today." His team consisted of 4 people. Eun-ji handled the technical work. Han Min-ji was their tech specialist, who could interface with almost any alien system. Private Kang Jun-soo provided security, though they had never needed it. And Do-hyun led them, making decisions and taking responsibility when things went wrong. They entered the ship through a hole in its side. The interior was dark, except for the lights on their helmets. The walls were made of a metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Everything smelled of smoke and something else, something organic. "This is Valari design," Min-ji said quietly. She was scanning the walls with her equipment. "Military class. These ships don't just crash. Something very bad happened here." Do-hyun felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. The Valari were one of the major powers in the galaxy. They were warriors, conquerors, an empire that had stood for 10,000 years. Their technology was far beyond anything humanity could build. If their ship crashed here, it meant someone, or something, had shot it down. "Focus on the mission," Do-hyun said. "We collect samples and information. Whatever happened here is not our problem." They moved deeper into the ship. Eun-ji cut through blocked passages, while Min-ji downloaded data from any terminal they found. Jun-soo walked behind them, his weapon ready, his eyes watching the shadows. The ship groaned around them. Metal screamed against metal. The structure was dying. After an hour, they reached what looked like the command chamber. It was a large circular room with a raised platform in the center. Screens covered the walls, all of them dead and dark. Control panels had been smashed. Someone had fought here. "Lieutenant," Jun-soo said. His voice was different now, tense. "There's a body." Do-hyun moved forward and saw it. An alien lay on the floor near the platform. A female, based on the body structure that Min-ji's scanner showed. She wore armor that looked like it had been grown rather than made. Dark blue metal covered her chest and limbs. Her skin was pale gray, almost silver. And her features were sharp and elegant in a way that was clearly not human but somehow beautiful. Blood pooled beneath her. A lot of it. "She's Valari," Min-ji whispered. "A commander, based on the armor markings. This is bad. If they find out we have one of their dead." "She's not dead," Do-hyun said. He had knelt beside the alien and pressed his fingers to her neck. The skin was cold, but he felt a pulse, weak and slow, but there. The team exchanged looks. This changed everything. A dead alien was a sample. A living alien was a diplomatic incident. "We need to call this in," Eun-ji said. Command will want to know. Do-hyun was about to agree when he noticed something else. Beside the alien commander, half hidden under debris, was a sword. It was the most beautiful weapon he had ever seen. The blade was long and thin, made of metal that seemed to glow with inner light. The handle was wrapped in material that looked like leather, but shimmered with colors that shifted as he watched. He had heard stories about Valari swords. They called them soul blades. Each one was bonded to its owner, connected to their life force. The aliens treated them like sacred objects, more valuable than ships or planets. The ship groaned again, louder this time. A section of the ceiling cracked. Chunks of metal fell, crashing down toward the unconscious alien. Do-hyun did not think. He moved. He grabbed the sword to push it aside, then threw himself over the alien commander, shielding her body with his own. Metal rained down around them. Something hit his back hard enough to knock the breath from his lungs. Pain exploded through his shoulder. Then silence. Lieutenant. Yoonji was at his side, pulling debris off him. Are you okay? Can you move? Do-hyun coughed and pushed himself up. His back hurt badly, but nothing was broken. He looked down at the alien. She was still breathing. He had protected her. Then he realized he was still holding the sword. It felt warm in his grip. Comfortable. Like it belonged there. The light inside the blade pulsed. Slowly. Almost like a heartbeat. Do-hyun, Minji said. Her voice was strange. You're holding her soul blade. I know. I'll put it down. No. You don't understand. Soul blades burn anyone who isn't their owner. They burn aliens. They burn everyone. I've seen videos of people losing their hands just from touching one. Do-hyun looked at the sword. It continued to glow softly, peacefully. His hand felt fine. Better than fine, actually. The pain in his shoulder seemed less now. Before he could respond, the alien commander moved. Her eyes opened. They were gold, bright and sharp like a hawk's. She looked up at Do-hyun, then at the sword in his hand. Her expression changed. Shock, disbelief, fear. She tried to speak, but only managed one word before unconsciousness took her again. Impossible. Do-hyun stood there in the rain of debris, holding an alien sword that should have destroyed his hand, looking at a warrior who had just seen something that broke her understanding of the universe. He did not know it yet, but everything had just changed. Not just for him. Not just for his team. For humanity. The sword pulsed once more, warm and steady, like a heart welcoming its new home. The military hospital was quiet at night. Most patients slept under the soft hum of machines. Guards walked the halls slowly, checking rooms and watching cameras. In room 17, behind reinforced glass and 3 security checkpoints, the alien commander lay on a bed too small for her tall frame. Dr. Kim So-yeon had not slept in 40 hours. She sat in a chair beside the bed, watching the monitors that tracked the alien's vital signs. Some readings she understood. Heart rate, blood pressure, brain activity. Others were mysteries she could only guess at. When the alien had arrived, So-yeon thought she would die. The wounds were severe. Blood loss was critical. Human medicine was not designed for alien bodies. But So-yeon refused to give up. She searched galactic databases for Valari biology. She studied their medical texts, translated by machines that made mistakes every few sentences. She worked with what she had and made choices that would have gotten her medical license removed if her patient had been human. Somehow, it worked. The alien stabilized. The wounds began to heal. Valari bodies were strong, stronger than human bodies by far. They recovered fast when given the chance. Now So-yeon waited. The alien would wake soon. What happened after that was beyond her control. The door opened softly. Lieutenant Park Do-hyun entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to So-yeon and sat in the chair beside her. Dark circles hung under his eyes. The bruises on his back had turned purple and yellow. He looked exhausted but could not seem to stay away. "Any change?" he asked. "Her brain activity is increasing. She's close to waking." Soyeon took a sip of coffee. It was bitter and too hot. "Perfect. You should go rest. You look terrible." Do-hyun almost smiled. "I've been told that before. I mean it. Whatever happens when she wakes up, you need to be sharp. General Baek will want you in the room. You're the one who saved her. I just did what anyone would do." Soyeon looked at him. "You shielded an alien with your body. An alien whose people could destroy our entire planet if they wanted. That's not what anyone would do. That's what you did." Do-hyun did not answer. He stared at the alien commander through the glass. She looked peaceful in sleep. Her silver skin smooth, and her sharp features relaxed. It was easy to forget she was a warrior who had probably killed hundreds. The sword rested on a table in the corner of the room. They had tried to move it to storage, but something strange happened. When anyone else touched it, the blade grew hot instantly. One soldier received burns on his palm just from holding it for 2 seconds. But when Do-hyun touched it, nothing happened. It stayed cool and calm in his grip. No one could explain it. The scientists had theories, but theories were not answers. A soft sound came from the bed. Both Do-hyun and Soyeon stood. The alien's eyes moved beneath her closed lids. Her fingers twitched. Then, slowly, her golden eyes opened. For a moment, she simply stared at the ceiling. Then her gaze moved around the room, taking in the monitors, the walls, the humans watching her. Her expression remained calm, controlled. A soldier's face. "Where am I?" Her voice was rough from sleep. But the translator device beside the bed converted her words into clear Korean. "You're in a medical facility," Soyeon said. She spoke slowly and carefully. "In a nation called South Korea. On the planet Earth. You crashed here 2 weeks ago. We've been treating your injuries." The alien processed this information. Her eyes found Do-hyun. She studied his face, his uniform, his posture. Recognition flickered in her expression. "You were there. In my ship." It was not a question. "Yes, my name is Park Do-hyun. I'm a lieutenant in the Earth Reclamation Corps. We found you in the wreckage. I remember." The alien pushed herself up to a sitting position. Soyeon moved to stop her, but the alien held up a hand. "I am well enough. Your medicine was adequate." Soyeon raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "I am Commander Yura of the Valari 3rd Fleet," the alien continued. "I thank you for your assistance. It was unexpected. We couldn't just leave you there." Do-hyun said. "Many species would have. Humans are young and weak. You have no reason to help a Valari. We have given your kind nothing." Yura's golden eyes were sharp, watching him closely. "Yet you risked yourself. I felt the debris falling. You covered my body with your own. It seemed like the right thing to do." Yura stared at him for a long moment. Then, her gaze moved to the corner of the room. To the sword. Her entire body went still. "My blade," she said softly. Do-hyun walked to the table and picked up the sword. It felt natural in his hand, like an old tool he had used 1,000 times. She did not take it. Instead, she stared at his hand wrapped around the handle. Her golden eyes went wide. Her controlled expression cracked, showing something underneath. Shock. Fear. Confusion. "How?" The word came out as a whisper. "How are you holding it?" "I just picked it up. I've been holding it since the crash." "That is impossible." Yura's voice shook slightly. "That blade has been mine for 80 years. It is bound to my soul. Anyone else who touches it suffers the burning. The blade judges them unworthy and punishes them with fire. I have seen warriors lose their hands, I have seen fools die screaming. I have seen warriors. 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 I have seen fools die warriors. She looked at Do-hyun's hand again. No burns. No damage. Not even redness. The blade should have killed you the moment you touched it. Yet you hold it like it belongs to you. Do-hyun looked down at the sword. Its inner light pulsed gently, as if responding to the conversation. I don't understand it either. Your doctors could probably explain. There is no explanation. Yura cut him off. This is not science. Soul blades are forged with ancient arts. They bond to the soul, not the body. They judge the spirit within. For you to hold my blade without burning means only one thing. She met his eyes directly. The blade has judged your soul and found it equal to mine. Perhaps greater. Her voice dropped even lower. In 10,000 years of Valari history, no alien has ever been judged worthy by a soul blade. No alien has ever touched one without screaming. You are the first. The room was silent. Soyeon's coffee grew cold in her hand. Do-hyun stood frozen, holding a sword that had just declared him worthy of an honor no human had ever received. What does this mean? He finally asked. Yura leaned back against her pillows. Her face was troubled. Her golden eyes distant with thought. It means everything will change, she said. When my people learn of this, when the galaxy learns, nothing will ever be the same. For you, for your planet, for all of humanity. She looked at the sword one more time. The blade has chosen. Whatever comes next, Lieutenant Park Do-hyun, you are no longer just a salvage officer. You are something new, something that has never existed before. Do-hyun felt the weight of her words settle over him like a heavy cloak. The sword pulsed warm in his hand. Outside the window, the sun was rising over the Korean mountains. A new day was beginning. But for humanity, it was much more than that. It was the start of everything. General Baek Jin-soo was a man who had seen many strange things in his career. He had fought in 3 conflicts, negotiated with alien traders, and once watched a ship the size of a mountain pass over Seoul like a cloud blocking the sun. But nothing had prepared him for this. He stood in the communications center of the military base, surrounded by screens and equipment that connected Earth to the rest of the galaxy. Beside him stood Lieutenant Do-hyun, Dr. Soyeon, and Commander Yura, who had insisted on standing despite her injuries. You're certain this is necessary? Baek asked Yura for the 3rd time. My fleet believes I am dead. They will be searching for my remains to give proper burial rites. If they find nothing, they may blame your people. Suspicion could lead to conflict. Yura's voice was steady and calm. I must report my survival. It is the wise choice. And Baek nodded slowly. And the matter of the sword? Yura glanced at Do-hyun. The sword hung at his hip now. He had tried to leave it behind, but Yura had forbidden it. Until she understood what had happened, she wanted the blade close. That matter will need to be addressed. My people will have questions. Will they be angry? I do not know what they will be. Yura's golden eyes showed nothing. This has never happened before. There is no history to guide us. Andway. 2 people. Baek took a deep breath and gave the order to open communication. The screens flickered, then filled with light as the connection established. A face appeared. Male, Valari, with darker gray skin and deep scars across one cheek. His eyes were narrow and cold. Commander Yura. His voice carried surprise and relief. We believed you lost. Your ship sent no signals after the attack. The ship was destroyed, Warlord Taeho. I alone survived. I was recovered by the natives of this planet and given medical treatment. The Valari on screen, Taeho, shifted his gaze to the humans in the room. His expression showed clear distaste. Humans. We know of them. Small people from a small world. They have no standing in galactic affairs. Bake felt anger rise in his chest but kept his face neutral. He had dealt with alien arrogance before. They saved my life, Yura said firmly. Without their aid, I would have died. They deserve respect. They deserve acknowledgement for service rendered. Respect is earned through power and honor. Tejo waved a hand dismissively. We will send a ship to retrieve you. Prepare for transport within the cycle. Before you send anyone, there is a matter that requires attention. Yura's voice changed slightly. Harder, more formal. Something occurred during my rescue. Something unprecedented. Tejo's eyes narrowed. Explain. Yura looked at Do-hyun. Show him. Do-hyun stepped forward into view of the camera. He felt the Valari's cold gaze examine him like he was an insect under glass. Then, slowly, he drew the sword from his hip and held it up. The blade caught the light and glowed with its soft inner fire. Beautiful and deadly and ancient. Tejo's expression did not change at first. Then understanding came. His eyes went wide. His scarred face paled. That is your blade, he said to Yura. His voice was different now, uncertain. Yes, the human is holding your blade. Yes, that is impossible. I know. Tejo stared at the screen. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the warlord leaned forward, his cold expression replaced by something intense and hungry. This must be verified. The High Council must be informed. Do not let that human leave your sight. Do not let him release the blade. That are not wide. Are not wide. Are not wide. Do not let him release the blade. I understand. The connection ended abruptly. The screens went dark. Bake turned to Yura. What happens now? Now we wait. And soon, my people will come. Many of them. She was right. Within 6 hours, the sky above Korea filled with ships. Not one or two, but dozens. Valari warships dropped from faster-than-light travel and took positions around Earth. They did not attack. They did not threaten. They simply waited and watched. News spread across the planet. Governments panicked. Militaries mobilized. Citizens looked up at the sky and saw alien vessels blocking the stars. But the Valari were not interested in Earth. They were interested in one man. A delegation arrived the next day. 12 Valari warriors in ceremonial armor, led by an elderly female with white hair and silver robes. She was introduced as High Elder Sunmi, a member of the ruling council. She walked with a cane, but her eyes were sharp and clear. They gathered in a large conference room. Human officials sat on one side, Valari on the other. Do-hyun stood in the middle, feeling like a specimen on display. We have reviewed Commander Yura's report, High Elder Sunmi said. Her voice was soft but carried easily. We have studied the evidence. Yet we cannot accept it without direct witness. Soul blades do not make mistakes. But perhaps there has been some error. Or deception. There is no deception, Yura said from her seat. I watched him carry my blade for hours. He held it through the night. He carries it now. Then he will demonstrate for us. Sunmi's eyes fixed on Do-hyun. Human. Hold the blade high, so all may see. Do-hyun drew the sword once more. He lifted it above his head. The blade pulsed with light. Stronger now, as if responding to the attention. Its glow filled the room with blue and silver shadows. The Valari warriors shifted in their seats. Some leaned forward, others pulled back. All of them stared with eyes full of disbelief. High Elder Sunmi rose from her chair and walked slowly toward Do-hyun. She stopped an arm's length away and studied his face. How old are you, human? 32 years. A child. Your entire species is a child. You have been in the stars for barely a generation. You have no history, no legacy, no great deeds. She tilted her head. Yet the blade accepts you. The blade, which has judged souls for millennia, finds you worthy. She reached out and placed her palm over the glowing blade, not touching it, but close enough that Do-hyun could feel the heat between metal and skin. "Do you understand what this means?" Commander Yura tried to explain. "I'm still not sure I believe it. The soul blade judges the spirit within. It sees past, flesh and blood and bone. It sees what you truly are." Sunmi's voice dropped to a whisper that only Do-hyun could hear. "For 10,000 years, only Valari have been found worthy. We believed ourselves the greatest souls in the galaxy, the chosen ones, the honored ones." She pulled her hand back and looked at Do-hyun with an expression he could not read. "And now a human, from a tiny world we ignored, holds a blade that would burn the hand of any of my warriors. What does that say about humanity? What does that say about us?" She returned to her seat, leaving Do-hyun standing alone with the sword. "This news will spread," Sunmi announced to the room. "Within days, every species in the galaxy will know. The humans have been judged worthy. Whatever comes next, nothing will be the same." Baek leaned forward. "What does come next?" Sunmi glanced at the warriors beside her. Several of them looked uncomfortable, unhappy. "That depends on many things, General. There are those among my people who will celebrate this, and there are those who will see it as an insult to everything we believe." Her eyes moved to one warrior in particular, a large male with dark armor and angry eyes. Warlord Taeho stared at Do-hyun with hatred barely contained. "The blade may have accepted you, human," Taeho said quietly. "But I have not, and I never will." Do-hyun met his gaze without flinching. The sword pulsed warm in his hand. Outside, the Valari ships hung in Earth's sky like omens of things to come. Around the galaxy, messages spread at the speed of light. Species that had never thought about humans suddenly paid attention. The universe had taken notice of humanity. Whether that was a blessing or a curse remained to be seen. 3 days passed after the Valari delegation arrived. 3 days of meetings, arguments, and tension that hung in the air like smoke. Do-hyun spent most of that time being examined, questioned, and studied. Scientists scanned his body. Valari priests chanted over the sword. Everyone searched for answers that refused to appear. On the 4th day, Warlord Taeho made his move. The announcement came during a joint council meeting. Human leaders sat alongside Valari officials, discussing terms of future cooperation. The mood was cautiously hopeful. Some Valari seemed genuinely impressed by humanity's potential. Others remained skeptical. And Taeho sat in the corner, silent and watchful, waiting for his moment. When High Elder Sunmi mentioned the possibility of formal diplomatic ties, Taeho stood. "This discussion is premature," he said. His voice cut through the room like a blade. "We speak of alliance and respect, but nothing has been proven. A human held a sword. That is all." Sunmi frowned. "The blade's judgment is sacred, Warlord. You know this. I know tradition. I know ritual. But I also know that judgments can be tested." Taeho's eyes found Do-hyun across the room. "The blade accepts those of worthy spirit, but spirit alone does not make a warrior. Spirit alone does not earn honor." General Baek shifted in his seat. "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting a trial." Taeho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "A challenge by combat. Let the human prove his worth, not through accidents of fate, but through skill and courage. Let him face a Valari warrior and show us what humanity truly offers." The room erupted in protests. Human officials shouted about unfairness. Even some Valari seemed uncomfortable. But Taeho stood calm in the storm, his eyes never leaving Do-hyun. "If he refuses," Taeho continued, "then we know the truth. The blade made an error. Humanity is unworthy. We will withdraw from this world and leave you to your insignificance. And if he accepts? Bake demanded. Then he fights. If he wins, humanity will be recognized. Full diplomatic status, a seat among the great powers. Everything you desire. Taeho spread his hands. A simple test. A fair exchange. Sunmi looked troubled. This is not necessary, Taeho. The blade's judgment. The blade judged him capable of holding it. Nothing more. I wish to see if he is capable of using it. By ancient law, I have the right to demand this test. Silence fell. Sunmi exchanged glances with the other council members. Whatever they were thinking, they did not overrule Taeho. The challenge is permitted, Sunmi said finally. The human may accept or refuse. Every eye in the room turned to Do-hyun. He felt their gazes like physical weight. The humans looked worried, some angry, some afraid. The Valari watched with curiosity, skepticism, or in Taeho's case, triumph. Only Yura showed something different. She sat stiff in her chair, her golden eyes burning with an emotion he could not name. Do-hyun thought about refusing. It would be the smart choice. He was not a fighter. He had never trained with a sword. Going against a Valari warrior, a species that had been fighting wars since before humans discovered fire, was suicide. But if he refused, everything ended. Humanity would remain small and ignored. The chance that had fallen into his hands would disappear, and Taeho would win. Do-hyun stood. I accept. The next 3 days were the hardest of his life. General Baek assembled a team to prepare him. Dr. Soyeon monitored his health and kept him from collapsing from exhaustion. Cho Eun-ji studied every piece of footage they had of Valari combat, breaking down techniques and patterns. Han Min-ji worked on something special. A neural assist device that could help his reflexes respond faster than his brain could process. But the most important help came from Yura. She was not allowed to train him directly. That would violate the rules of the challenge. But she watched every practice session. She corrected his stance with subtle gestures. She answered questions about Valari fighting styles when the rules allowed. One night, when Do-hyun trained alone in the practice room, she came to him. You cannot win, she said quietly. You understand this. Do-hyun lowered the sword. His arms ached. His legs trembled. Sweat soaked through his clothes. Taeho has fought for 300 years. He has killed thousands. He knows 7 blade forms and created 2 of his own. Even among Valari, he is considered a master. Yura's voice was steady, but her eyes showed concern. You learned to hold a sword 4 days ago. I know. Then why did you accept? You could have refused. No one would have blamed you. Do-hyun thought about the question. The answer had been forming in his mind since the moment he made his choice. Because I had to, he said. Not for me. For everyone who comes after. If humanity backs down now, we'll always be the species that was too afraid to try. We'll never be respected. We'll never matter. He looked at the sword in his hand. I might lose. I probably will. But at least, I'll lose fighting. At least I'll show them we don't give up. Yura studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. That is why the blade chose you, she said softly. Not because you are skilled. Not because you are powerful. Because your spirit refuses to accept defeat. Because you would rather die standing than live kneeling. She moved closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Taeho is arrogant. He expects you to fight like a Valari because you hold a Valari blade. But you are not Valari. You are human. Fight like a human. Survive. Endure. That is your strength. She left without another word. Do-hyun stood alone in the practice room, her advice echoing in his mind. Fight like a human. The day of the challenge arrived too quickly. A field outside the city had been cleared and prepared. Thousands of humans and aliens gathered to watch. Drones hovered overhead, broadcasting to every corner of the galaxy. Millions of species would see what happened next. Do-hyun walked onto the field wearing simple armor that Minji had designed. The neural assist device was hidden against his spine, ready to boost his reactions. The sword hung at his hip, pulsing gently with light. Across the field, Taeho waited. He wore ceremonial battle armor that had seen 100 wars. His sword was massive, double the size of the one Do-hyun carried. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "Human," Taeho called out. "You still have time to withdraw. No one will remember a coward, but at least you will live." Do-hyun drew his sword. The blade caught the sunlight and blazed with inner fire. "My name is Park Do-hyun, and I'm not withdrawing." Taeho smiled, cold and cruel. "Then you will die with honor. That is more than most of your species will ever achieve." The signal was given. The challenge began, and Do-hyun charged toward a warrior 3 centuries old, carrying a sword that had chosen him for reasons he still did not understand, fighting for a future that depended entirely on what happened next. The first strike nearly killed him. Taeho moved faster than anything Do-hyun had seen. One moment, the warlord stood across the field. The next, his massive blade swept toward Do-hyun's neck in a blur of silver death. Only the neural assist device saved him. His body twisted before his mind even registered the attack. The blade passed close enough to cut hair from his head. Do-hyun stumbled back, raising his sword in a desperate guard. Taeho pressed forward without pause, launching strike after strike. Each blow sent shocks through Do-hyun's arms. Each movement pushed him further across the field. The crowd watched in terrible silence. Humans held their breath. Valari nodded with grim satisfaction. This was exactly what they expected. "Slow," Taeho said between attacks. He was not even breathing hard. "Clumsy. Weak. Is this the best humanity offers?" Taeho. 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 Do-hyun blocked another strike and felt his grip slip. Pain exploded in his shoulder as the tip of Taeho's blade drew blood. First wound. First failure. "You should not have accepted this challenge, human. You should have known your place." Taeho pressed harder, his attacks becoming even faster. "Your species is nothing. A footnote in galactic history. After today, you will return to being forgotten." Do-hyun's defensive stance broke. Taeho's blade caught him across the chest, slicing through armor and skin. Blood sprayed across the grass. The crowd gasped. He fell to one knee. In the stands, Dr. Soyeon gripped General Baek's arm. "We have to stop this. He'll die." "We can't," Baek said through clenched teeth. He accepted the challenge. Only he can end it. Han Minji watched her monitors. The neural assist was working perfectly, but it was not enough. Taeho was too fast, too skilled. No amount of boosted reflexes could make up for 3 centuries of combat experience. Then the device sparked. The connection failed. Minji's screens went dark. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." On the field, Do-hyun felt the assistance disappear. His movements, which had been just barely fast enough, became slow and clumsy again. Taeho noticed immediately. "Ah, your human tricks have failed." The warlord circled him slowly, enjoying the moment. "Good. Now we see what you truly are." Do-hyun pushed himself to his feet. Blood soaked his armor. His chest burned. His arms felt like lead. But he raised his sword and faced Taeho again. "Still standing?" Taeho looked almost amused. "Impressive. Pointless, but impressive. Let me teach you something. Human. In Valari culture, there is a concept called the final stand. When a warrior knows he cannot win, he chooses how he dies. He faces his enemy with dignity and accepts his fate." He raised his blade in a formal salute. "I am offering you this honor. Die well, and I will speak kindly of your courage. Die badly, and I will forget your name before sunset." Do-hyun did not return the salute. He did not lower his sword. He just stood there, bleeding and broken, and smiled. "I'm not here to die well," he said. Taeho's amusement faded. "You cannot win. Look at yourself. You can barely stand. I'm still standing. You are bleeding out. I'm still standing. Your weapon is shaking in your hands." Do-hyun adjusted his grip. "I'm still standing." Something changed in Taeho's expression. The arrogance flickered, replaced briefly by something else. Confusion. Concern. "Why?" he demanded. "Why do you not accept reality? Any warrior would see the truth. You have lost. Continuing only extends your suffering." Honor 7. Well, Do-hyun thought about Yura's words. Fight like a human. Survive. Endure. Because that's what humans do, he said. We don't quit. We don't accept defeat. We keep going, keep fighting, keep trying until there's nothing left. You're better than me in every way, but I guarantee you've never fought anyone like me. Taeho attacked. The blow was meant to end everything. A massive diagonal strike that would cut Do-hyun from shoulder to hip. Unstoppable. Unavoidable. Do-hyun did not try to block. He did not try to dodge. He stepped into the attack. Taeho's blade bit deep into his side. Pain beyond anything he had known tore through his body. But his own blade continued forward, driven by momentum and desperation and pure, stubborn will. The tip touched Taeho's cheek. It was barely a scratch. A thin line of blood on gray skin. Nothing compared to the wounds covering Do-hyun's body. But in Valari tradition, it was everything. First blood. Taeho froze. The crowd went silent. Somewhere, Yura rose from her seat, her hand covering her mouth. "That is..." Taeho's voice cracked. "That is not possible." Do-hyun fell to his knees, Taeho's blade still embedded in his side. The world spun around him. His vision darkened at the edges. But he kept his sword raised. The blood on its tip caught the light. "First blood," he said. The words came out as a whisper. "I win." The silence stretched for an eternity. Then it shattered. Humans erupted in cheers. They screamed and cried and held each other. Military officers who had seen 100 battles wept openly. Civilians watching on screens around the world fell to their knees. The Valari were quieter. Some looked shocked. Some looked troubled. And some, a few, looked at Do-hyun with something that might have been respect. But Taeho looked at him with only one thing: hatred. "No," the warlord said. "No, this is not acceptable. This cannot be how it ends. A human cannot defeat me. A human cannot. The duel is decided." High Elder Sunmi's voice rang out across the field. First blood was drawn. By our own traditions, Lieutenant Park Do-hyun is the victor. The traditions are wrong. Taeho ripped his blade from Do-hyun's side, drawing a fresh wave of blood. This creature is nothing. His species is nothing. I will not allow history to record that I lost to a... You will accept the outcome, Sunmi said firmly. The duel is over. Do-hyun collapsed fully now, his strength finally gone. Soyeon rushed onto the field. Medical team behind her. They surrounded him, working frantically to stop the bleeding. Through fading vision, Do-hyun saw Yura approaching. She knelt beside him, her golden eyes filled with something he could not name. "You did it," she said softly. "You impossible human. You actually did it." He tried to speak but could not find the words. The sword slipped from his fingers and landed on the grass beside him. Its light pulsed weakly, matching the rhythm of his fading heartbeat. "Stay with me," Yura ordered. "You do not get to die now. Not after this." Do-hyun wanted to tell her that he had no plans to die, that he had too much left to do, that humanity's story was just beginning. But the darkness took him before he could say anything at all. The last thing he heard was Yura's voice, distant and urgent, calling his name across a great void. And somewhere in that darkness, The sword's light continued to pulse, keeping time with a heart that refused to stop beating. Do-hyun opened his eyes to chaos. He lay on the grass where he had fallen, surrounded by medics working to save his life. So-yeon shouted orders, while soldiers held equipment and applied pressure to wounds. Everything hurt. A deep, burning pain that told him he was still alive. But something was wrong. The crowd was not cheering anymore. They were screaming. He turned his head and saw Taeho standing over him, sword raised for a killing blow. "You stole my honor, human." The warlord's face was twisted with rage. "You humiliated me before the galaxy. I will not let you live to enjoy your victory." "Taeho, stop." Yura's voice cut through the noise. She was running toward them, but she was too far away, too slow. "The duel is over. This violates sacred law. Under the Bly, Ender 70, anytime. Taeho, 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 I am the law." Taeho screamed. "I decide what is sacred. And I decide. This human dies." His blade fell. Do-hyun could not move. His body had given everything it had. He could only watch as death descended toward his face. The sword never touched him. A warrior stepped between them. One of Taeho's own soldiers, a member of the Crimson Veil, the elite guard that had served the warlord for centuries. He caught Taeho's blade with his own weapon, stopping the strike inches from Do-hyun's throat. "What are you doing?" Taeho's voice was a snarl of disbelief. "Stand aside." "No, my lord." The warrior's voice was calm. "Certain." The duel ended. The human won. Killing him now would be murder. It would be dishonor. End quote. "I command you to move. You command nothing." The warrior forced Taeho's blade back and stepped away. Then, slowly, deliberately, he dropped his own sword on the ground. "I will not serve a lord who breaks sacred law. I will not follow a leader who murders the defenseless." He knelt on the grass, bowing his head toward Do-hyun. Taeho stared in shock. "You dare!" Another warrior stepped forward. She removed her helmet, revealing a young face with silver scars. Without a word, she dropped her weapon and knelt beside the first, then another. And another. One by one, the warriors of the Crimson Veil abandoned their commander. They dropped their weapons on the grass and knelt in a spreading circle around Do-hyun. 10 warriors, 20, all of them turning their backs on the warlord they had served for generations. The last to move was an old soldier with white in his hair. He had stood at Taeho's side for over a century. He looked at his lord with eyes full of sorrow. "I followed you through 100 battles," he said quietly. "This is not the Valari way. The human earned his victory. He earned our respect. And you would murder him for it." He dropped his blade. The sound rang across the silent field. "I serve the worthy," he said. Then he knelt with the others. Taeho stood alone. His entire guard had abandoned him. His greatest warriors knelt before a wounded human. His reputation, his legacy, everything he had built over 3 centuries, collapsed in a single moment. "No." His voice cracked. "No. This cannot be happening. I am Warlord Taeho. I am the greatest warrior of the Third Fleet. I am... You are nothing." The voice came from Do-hyun. He had pushed himself up on one elbow, blood still flowing from his wounds. The sword had somehow returned to his hand. He did not remember picking it up. "You are nothing," he repeated. "Not because you lost a fight. Losing doesn't make you nothing. But this." He gestured at the kneeling warriors. "Breaking your own laws. Trying to murder someone who beat you fairly. That makes you nothing." Taeho raised his blade again. "I will kill you. I will kill everyone here. I will." The sword in Do-hyun's hand blazed with light. It was not the soft glow he had seen before. This was fire. Pure, blinding, terrible fire that erupted from the blade and filled the field with silver radiance. The light struck Taeho like a physical force, driving him backward. And then something impossible happened. Taeho's own sword, the blade he had carried for 300 years, began to crack. Lines spread across the metal, like frost on glass. The weapon that had killed thousands started to scream, a high-pitched wail that made everyone cover their ears. What? Taeho stared at his blade in horror. What is happening? What? Your sword knows. Yura had reached them now. She stood beside Do-hyun, her eyes wide with wonder. The soul blade judges the spirit within. And your spirit has been found wanting. The cracks spread. The screaming grew louder. Taeho tried to hold his weapon together, but the metal was disintegrating in his hands. No, this blade has been mine for 3 centuries. It cannot reject me. With a final shriek, the sword shattered. Pieces of metal flew in all directions. Taeho fell to his knees, clutching empty hands, staring at the fragments of his blade scattered across the grass. The light from Do-hyun's sword faded. The fire died down, but everyone had seen what happened. Everyone knew what it meant. The warlord's own weapon had judged him unworthy. High Elder Sunmi approached slowly. Her face showed no emotion, but her voice carried the weight of authority. Warlord Taeho, you have broken sacred law. You have attempted murder after an honorable defeat. And now, your blade has abandoned you. She paused, looking down at the broken warrior. You are stripped of rank. You are stripped of title. You are no longer Valari. Taeho did not respond. He simply knelt there, staring at nothing, broken in ways that went far beyond the physical. Guards came forward and led him away. He did not resist. Sunmi turned to the kneeling warriors of the Crimson Veil. You have shown true honor today. You chose principle over obedience, law over loyalty. Rise. They stood. But they did not look at Sunmi. They looked at Do-hyun. The old warrior who had been last to kneel stepped forward. We serve the worthy, he said again. We would follow him, if he would have us. Sunmi raised an eyebrow. You would serve a human? We would serve the one the blade chose. The one who stood when he should have fallen. The one who fought without fear, against impossible odds. The warrior met Do-hyun's eyes. We have served power before. Perhaps it is time we served something greater. Do-hyun did not know what to say. He was still bleeding, still weak, still trying to understand what had just happened. He had come here expecting to lose, possibly to die. Instead, he had somehow become something more than he ever imagined. So-yen finally pushed through the crowd. Enough talking. My patient is dying on his feet. She glared at everyone, human and Valari alike. Move aside. Now, even the ancient warriors of the Crimson Veil stepped back before her fury. As they carried Do-hyun away on a stretcher, he looked up at the sky. The Valari ships still hung there, dark shapes against the clouds. But they did not seem threatening anymore. They seemed like witnesses, like the galaxy itself watching to see what humanity would become. Yura walked beside the stretcher, her hand resting on the sword that had started everything. Sleep now, she said softly. You have earned it. Do-hyun closed his eyes. For the first time since this all began, he let himself rest. The battle was over. The real work was about to begin. 2 weeks had passed since the duel. Do-hyun stood at the window of the medical ward, watching the sun set over the Korean mountains. His wounds had healed faster than anyone expected. So-yeon said it had something to do with the sword, some kind of connection that helped his body repair itself. He did not fully understand it, but he accepted it. He was learning to accept many things. The door opened behind him. He did not need to turn to know who it was. The council has gathered, Yura said. They are ready for you. Do-hyun nodded but did not move yet. What do they want? Everything. They want to offer you a title, a position, Command of the Crimson Veil, since they have sworn themselves to you. They want to make you Valari, in every way that matters. And what do you want? Yura was quiet for a moment. Then she walked to stand beside him, looking out at the same sunset. I want you to do what is right for your people. Not for the Valari. Not for the galaxy. For humanity. All of us firemen in the mana. For Odor's right. And police. For humanity. Odors. For humanity. Do-hyun finally turned to face her. You could be in trouble for saying that. Aren't you supposed to represent your empire's interests? I represent honor. And honor means telling you the truth. Her golden gaze was steady and warm. You are not a weapon to be claimed. You are not a symbol to be used. You are a man who did something extraordinary. What happens next should be your choice. He smiled slightly. You're different from when we met. Less formal. Less distant. Dying changes people. So does being saved by a stranger who should have let you burn. She almost smiled back. You showed me that not all strength comes from power. Some comes from kindness, from choosing to help when there is no benefit to yourself. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the last light fade from the sky. I've made my decision, Do-hyun said finally. I'm going to refuse their offers. All of them. They will not understand. Probably not. But I'm not Valari. I don't want to become Valari. I want to stay human. He touched the sword at his hip. It had not left his side since the duel. It felt like part of him now. This blade chose me because of who I am, not who I might become. If I change myself to fit their expectations, I might lose whatever it was that made me worthy in the first place. Yura nodded slowly. Then what will you ask for? What humanity has always wanted? A seat at the table. Recognition as equals. The chance to prove ourselves on our own terms. He paused. And you, she looked at him sharply. As a liaison. An ambassador. A bridge between our peoples. He hesitated. And maybe a friend. If you're willing. Yura was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. By ancient law, because my blade accepted you, our fates are connected. I am bound to you, whether I choose it or not. She paused. But yes, I would choose it. I would be your friend, Park Do-hyun. I would be whatever you need me to be. They walked to the council chamber together. The room was filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. High Elder Sunmi sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by Valari nobles and human leaders. General Baek was there, along with Dr. Soyun, Minji, and Unji. The Crimson Veil stood along the walls, their new loyalty clear in the way they watched Do-hyun enter. Messages from across the galaxy played on screens around the room. Species that had ignored humanity for generations now sent greetings and proposals. Trade offers, alliance requests, invitations to join ancient coalitions that had never considered adding new members. Everything had changed, exactly as Yura had predicted. Sunmi rose when Do-hyun approached. Lieutenant Park Do-hyun, the galaxy has taken notice of your actions. The Valari High Council wishes to honor you appropriately. She gestured at the various nobles. We offer you the rank of warlord, to replace the one who fell. We offer you command of the Crimson Veil and the Third Fleet. We offer you citizenship in our empire and a seat on this council. The offers hung in the air. Wealth, power, influence, beyond anything a human had ever possessed. Do-hyun bowed respectfully. I am honored by your generosity, but I must refuse. Murmurs rippled through the room. Sunmi's expression did not change. May I ask why? Because I am human. Because my people need me to stay human. Do-hyun straightened. I do not want power. I want partnership. I do not want to join your empire. I want to stand beside it as equals. He looked around the room. meeting the eyes of humans and Valari alike. Humanity is young. We know this. We have no great fleets, no ancient traditions, no empires that span the stars. But we have something else. We have the ability to grow, to learn, to become more than we were. He touched the sword at his hip. This blade saw something in me, something worthy. I believe that same thing exists in every human. Given the chance, we will prove ourselves. Not through conquest, not through power, through persistence, through courage, through refusing to give up, even when everyone expects us to fail. He faced Sunmi directly. I ask for alliance, friendship, a seat at the galactic table not as servants or pets, but as partners. And I ask for Commander Yura to serve as liaison between our peoples. If she is willing. Yura stepped forward. I am willing. I request reassignment to Earth as the Valari representative. Sunmi studied them both for a long moment. Then, slowly, she smiled. You refused power to ask for partnership. You refused rank to ask for friendship. She shook her head. Perhaps the blade was right about you after all, Lieutenant. She turned to the council. I recommend we accept. Humanity has proven itself through this man's actions. They deserve the chance to prove themselves further. She looked at the human representatives. General Bake, do you speak for your world? Bake stood. Then let it be recorded. From this day forward, humanity is recognized as a sovereign species with full diplomatic standing. The Valari Empire extends the hand of friendship, not dominion. The room erupted in applause. Human officials embraced each other. Even some Valari joined in. Their ancient pride set aside for a moment of genuine celebration. Minji leaned over to Unji. I'm already planning how to analyze the sword's resonance patterns. Do you think he'll let me study it? 17. Unji. Soyun sighed. He almost died, multiple times. And you're thinking about research? Science waits for no one, Doctor. Bake shook Do-hyun's hand firmly. You did what none of us could. You made them see us. You gave humanity a future. We gave ourselves a future, Do-hyun corrected. I just happened to be holding the sword when it mattered. Later that night, Do-hyun stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The Valari ships were leaving orbit, returning to their empire with news of the alliance. Only a small diplomatic vessel remained, Yura's new assignment. She joined him on the balcony, standing close enough that their shoulders almost touched. What comes next? She asked. Do-hyun looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, countless species were talking about humanity. Some with curiosity, some with interest, some, perhaps, with worry. Whatever it is, we face it together. Humans and Valari, and whoever else wants to join us. Yura nodded. There will be challenges. Not everyone will accept this alliance. There are those who will try to tear it apart. Then we'll deal with them, the same way I dealt with Tejo. He drew the sword and held it up. The blade caught the starlight and glowed softly, peacefully, like a heartbeat at rest. I used to think this blade chose me by accident, he said. Some mistake of fate that put me in the wrong place at the wrong time. But now, I think maybe it was looking for someone exactly like me, someone human. Someone who would stand up when standing was impossible. Someone who would refuse to quit even when every logical reason said to give up. He sheathed the sword. Maybe that's what humanity offers the galaxy. Not strength or technology or ancient wisdom, just the stubborn refusal to accept that anything is impossible. Yura looked at him with something like wonder. Your people have a phrase. I learned it from your databases. Do not underestimate the humans. Do-hyun laughed quietly. Yeah, that sounds about right. They stood together as the night deepened, watching the stars wheel overhead. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued its ancient dance. Wars were fought. Empires rose and fell. Species lived and died across countless worlds, and humanity, young and small and stubborn, took its first real steps toward the stars. Whatever came next, they would face it standing. That was the human way. That would always be the human way.